Welcome to the latest episode of the B Movie Club. I'm Kevin, your host. This is the 1-year anniversary of the first episode of the B Movie Club 52 weeks ago. It seems like only yesterday I was sitting at my computer with some time on my hands and a head full of useless information. And here I am today. It started with humble beginnings. Still pretty humble, but we're having fun. For those of you guys joining us for the first time, the B Movie Club is like a book club where I'll post on Facebook what movie we'll be discussing over the course of the week. You can watch it streaming instantly on Netflix. You can send me your questions and comments on Twitter at KD9575 or on our official B Movie Club Facebook page, the original B Movie Club. If you have not already done so, please do that. Go on Facebook, click the like button. Go on to YouTube at KD9575, the B Movie Club, and subscribe, won't you? Spread the word. Tell a friend. Recently, I contacted both Netflix and Rotten Tomatoes about maybe getting some sponsorship on board. Rotten Tomatoes still waiting for them to get back to me, you know. It's a big proposal, you understand. There's a lot of moving parts. They're contemplating which way they want to go. Still waiting to hear from them. Netflix got back promptly and probably told me to hit the bricks. They actually referred me to Google. So we are going to have some sponsorship coming up. I'm still trying to decide which way I want to go. So whichever sponsor I choose in the future, please buy whatever it is they're selling in mass quantities. They'll give me a little something for the effort, if you know what I mean. Anyway, thank you for joining us. If you've been with us since day one, thank you for the long and interesting journey. This week, the 1968 science fiction classic, Planet of the Apes, starring Charlton Heston. You have a lot of really horrible Charlton Heston impressions to look forward to, so buckle up and get ready for that. Planet of the Apes takes place in the future, 1972. There you go. Where we have rocket ships that travel at light speed. There's a mission consisting of Charlton Heston and his 3 buddies who are traveling at light speed, like I said, to explore the furthest reaches of the galaxy. They've already realized that thousands of years have passed due to the theory of relativity, I guess. Time is relative. Thanks, Einstein. They go into deep sleep, or they go into like these sarcophaguses, and basically that's what you do when you travel light speed. It's still way too far to the nearest star, so you have to kind of go into like hibernation. Something goes wrong. They crash into water on this distant planet, and they wake up to discover one of their party has basically something happened. There's a crack in her sarcophagus, and she's dead. That's very sad. So it's just 3 dudes now. So I guess they're not going to be repopulating the planet anytime soon. It looks like a desolate planet. So they're out exploring. They eventually come across human-like people who are basically savages. They're wearing like, old animal skins. They don't speak or make any noise, and they're just kind of scrounging up old food and fruits and vegetables that they just eat off the tree. So there you go. It's at this moment we discover the dominant species of this planet, apes. Or at least people wearing ape masks who stand erect, wear clothes, talk, all sorts of good stuff like that. They're basically hunting down and exterminating the people, but they're also capturing them for scientific research. There's a lot going on. Charlton, our hero, who's called Taylor, gets separated from the other men in his mission. He gets shot in the throat and gets captured by the apes, who perform, basically experiments and things like that. Because he was shot in the throat, he's unable to speak. All the apes speak perfect English with a hint of an English accent. maybe more than a hint. So he's not able, even though he understands them, he's not able to talk to them. And even though they talk directly to him, and they kind of see he's very intelligent, for some reason he's unable to like use any kind of nonverbal communication or hand gestures to kind of make himself known. A couple times he writes in the dirt kind of words that for whatever reason they're unable to see. Eventually he realizes that the plan is to geld him. So he escapes from the sympathetic scientists, Zira and Cornelius, and runs through the crazy primitive town that the apes live in, is eventually recaptured, and then he's able to speak. I guess his vocal cords heal at this point, and it's a big, it's a big issue when the animals, the people, are now suddenly speaking perfect English. It caused a ruckus, to say the least. Anyway, moving forward, there's like a big trial where the scientists are basically have to go on and convince the scientists, or excuse me, the leaders of the community, who are orangutans, that this wasn't some trick or some kind of put on, that they've trained a person to speak. He claims he's from a distant planet. They think that's baloney. In fact, going so far as to say, we all know that flight is impossible. So, there you go. Good times had by all. Eventually, we discover that Dr. Zaius, who's the head of the science agency and also the primary keeper of the faith, he knows that Taylor is pretty much who he says he is, that he is an intelligent human who is able to speak. And basically, he's, tell me where the rest of the people are that speak. I want to exterminate them. Taylor escapes with Cornelius and Zira to this archaeological dig that they found off in the Forbidden Zone, which is an area of the planet where the apes are basically religiously forbidden to go. That's why it's called the Forbidden Zone. They're forbidden to go there. Good times. So, at the archaeological dig, they see some artifacts that Taylor identifies immediately as like eyeglasses and a pacemaker and things like that, that a person would use. They're ancient things. Dr. Zaius shows up, they kidnap him, and he sees all this stuff. And the one thing they find is a doll. It's a human doll. Would apes have human dolls? Oh, of course, people, have dolls like animals and things like that. Why wouldn't they have a human doll? Well, they drop the human doll and it says, Mama. Would apes have a doll, a human doll that spoke? Of course not. So anyway, I don't want to spoil the ending for this movie that came out 40 years ago, but needless to say, Taylor escapes with another jungle girl that he's taken with him. I guess you can't be too choosy when you're on a crazy planet where everybody's an ape. You just take the first girl you find along the way. Anyway, he escapes and he discovers something bad. Spoiler alert, he discovers a Statue of Liberty. Eesh. The Planet of the Apes is actually the planet Earth. 3,000 years down the line, something happened. He immediately feels there was some kind of nuclear war. Bad times. And at some point, the apes took over. So there you go. They actually went ahead and made multiple sequels for this, starting with Beneath the Planet of the Apes that came out a few years later. They approached Charlton Heston to be in this, and he took a big pass. He said, no thanks. They said, please, Charlton, please. And he said, okay, I will be in the sequel, but I'll only be in about 5 minutes of it, and you better blow up the planet after at the end of the movie, because I don't want any more sequels. I don't want any more Charlton Heston is on the Planet of the Apes. So they say, okay, fine. And they do. He's in 5 minutes at the end of the movie. They blow up the Planet of the Apes. Oh, no more sequels. Guess again. They made The Conquest of the Planet of the Apes. Escape from the Planet of the Apes, Conquest of the Planet of the Apes, Battle for the Planet of the Apes. There was actually an animated cartoon show. There was a TV series. Then in 2001, they rebooted the franchise with the new, well, they didn't call it the new, just called Planet of the Apes with Marky Mark Wahlberg in it, playing the role of Taylor, where they kind of changed things around. And then recently, The Rise of the Planet of the Apes, which is kind of also like an alternate beginning to it all. So, with our good friend James Franco, good times. Anyway, these movies are all kind of a hoot as far as I'm concerned. The original Planet of the Apes was based upon a movie by a famous French author named Pierre Boulle, I believe, who it was originally called Planet of the Apes in French, or Gorilla Planet, depending on how you translate it. In this, in the book, there was actually an alternate trick ending. If you plan on reading it, I'm going to spoil it anyway. Basically, Taylor and his mate, Nova, or whatever her name was, they escape, and at some point, they return to Earth, discover it's also kind of apey, and leave like a message floating through space. And some astronauts find the message, read it, and the big trick is that the astronauts are apes. And their famous last lines is like, oh, it's all baloney because we know humans can't write. So there you go. Like I've said before, this is about the time where Charlton Heston was like, you know what, I'm still waiting for the next Ben-Hur and the next Ten Commandments. No can do. Well, I'm going to do as many crazy science fiction movies as I can, starting with Planet of the Apes. Later he did Omega Man, and which was remade recently as I Am Legend, and of course the immortal Soylent Green, which will never be remade. So there you have it. This movie was actually 89% fresh on Rotten Tomatoes. Big hit. It's a little hokey and a little silly, and it's interesting. There's a couple points that kind of parallel a modern political debate these days, because there is that whole science versus religion thing going on there. At one point, Charlton Heston calls Dr. Zaius on and says, like, how can you be the chief scientist and also be the chief keeper of the faith? That's my first Charlton Heston impression. Dr. Zaius says, well, when it's a true faith, there is no contradiction. So there you go. Sounds similar, doesn't it? Who would have known all those years ago they'd be predicting the future of American politics? Anyway, originally, they weren't too sure if they were going to make this movie, the producers, because they're very concerned about the makeup prosthetics and making it look kind of believable. But there was a couple episodes of Lost in Space where they had a similar theme, and it looked pretty real, so they said, okay, sounds good. The original script was written by Rod Serling, our man from The Twilight Zone. Was later rewritten a few times, but I always find that interesting. The Rod Serling, I almost called him Rod Stewart, by the way. Rod Serling had his finger in a lot of different science fiction pots, even at that time, so there you go. If it was Rod Stewart, it would be an entirely different movie. I don't even want to get into that. Anyway, next week, we're going to be doing the comedy masterpiece from the early 80s, Risky Business, starring Tom Cruise. It is streaming instantly on Netflix. Planet of the Apes is obviously still streaming instantly on Netflix, so please check them both out. Like I said before, you can subscribe on YouTube at KD9575. Look for the B Movie Club. Also, please go ahead and find our page on Facebook, the original B Movie Club, and click like. You can always post your favorite scenes, favorite quotes from movies. You can send in any movie suggestions you have. I always listen. It's amazing that it's been a year, and I'm glad you've been here with us all this time, I'm sure, watching every single episode. I promised my wife I'd cut these down because the last several episodes have been getting longer and longer. Hopefully this one isn't quite as long. Anyway, thank you for joining us. As you know, I end every episode with a totally out of context quote, and here it is, the immortal and famous line, "Get your stinking paws off of me, you damn dirty apes." Thank you for joining us, and be well.